Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this new session. I hope all of you are doing just great and preparing really, really well for your upcoming NET exam in this June. So it's already 16th of June, and your exam will be on 25th of June. So we are like 9 days away from your exam, right? So stay calm, keep revising really well, and please stay healthy. All right. So with that being said, let's get started with our session tonight. Let me start by sharing my screen with you all. And tonight also we will be revising questions from theory, criticism, and cultural studies. All right. So the screen is visible to you all, I guess. Yes, it is. So welcome, welcome, good evening. And this is our 14th session of Nta Net Revision. Before I begin, let me open the chat box so that I can Good evening, good evening. Okay, here we go. In her essay, The Oppositional Gaze, Black Female Spectators, Bell Hooks argues that the development of a resistant way of looking was necessitated by the exclusion of Black women from mainstream cinema. Which of the following works does she cite as a primary psychological and political precursor for understanding the look as a site of trauma and resistance for the colonized subject? Tell me. Let me have some water. Just give me a second, please. I will stop sharing the screen. And just a second. I don't know why I can't switch. I mean, I've switched on my video, but for some reason it's not visible. I don't know why. But let's continue with the session anyways. Okay, right. So tell me, Bell Hooks has cited which work in her essay, The Oppositional Gaze, Black Female Spectators, as a primary psychological and political precursor for understanding the look as a site of trauma and resistance for the colonized subject. Yes, it is Franz Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks. Bell Hooks draws heavily on Fanon's analysis of how the look of the white colonizer objectifies and devaluates the black subject, using this as the ground to develop her theory of the oppositional gaze, a way for black spectators to look at cinema critically rather than identifying with images that negate their existence. So indeed, it is Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks, which had inspired Bell Hooks's essay, The Oppositional Gaze. All right, yes. Next question. In her influential essay, Women's Time, Kristeva outlines three tiers or generations of the feminist movement. Which phase does she describe as being characterized by a radical withdrawal from the symbolic contract and an emphasis on the irreducible, essential difference of women, often manifesting as a counter society? Tell me. It's a very important work. influential essay, Women's Time by Kristeva. Which phase does she describe as being characterized by a radical withdrawal from the symbolic contract and an emphasis on the irreducible essential difference of women? It is the radical difference phase. Kristeva argues that the second generation of feminists rejected the first generation's desire for equality within the male dominated symbolic order. Instead, they sought to celebrate a unique, almost mystical female nature, a move that Kristeva critiques as being both necessary for identity and potentially exclusionary. So it is the radical difference phase. Okay. So please remember this essay, Women's Time by Kristeva. Okay, right. Clear? Right. Which of the following have been written by Stuart Hall? A, B, D only. The Rediscovery of Ideology is a seminal 1982 essay by Stuart Hall where he critiques pluralist media theory. All right. And then Encoding and Decoding is perhaps the most famous work of Stuart Hall, establishing the model of how media messages are produced and interpreted. Learning to Labor is not by Stuart Hall, but by Paul Willis, a contemporary of Hall at the CCCS. Notes on Deconstructing the Popular. Again, it's a major work by Stuart Hall. It is a key theoretical text on the nature of popular culture as a site of struggle. And lastly, we have the structural transformation of the public sphere. It's a work not by Stuart Hall, but by Jürgen Habermas. So which are the works by Stuart Hall? The Rediscovery of Ideology, Encoding and Decoding, and Notes on Deconstructing the Popular. These are major works by the cultural theorist, Stuart Hall. Stuart Hall. Okay, got it? Right. Now you have a match the following question. Heteroglossia of Mikhail Bakhtin, Interpellation of Althusser, Deference of Derrida, and Simulacrum of Baudrillard. Heteroglossia of Mikhail Bakhtin. It is the presence of multiple competing voices and social dialects within a single literary work or discourse. So A3, interpellation. It's the process by which ideology hails or addresses individuals, thereby constituting them as subjects. B1. Then deference is the idea that meaning is never fully present, but is both distinct from itself and eternally postponed. C4. And lastly, simulacrum. It will be option 2, that is a copy without an original, a representation that precedes and replaces reality. So A3, B1, C4, D2. Got it? Yes, so A3, B1, C4, D2. A3, B1, C4, D2. Got it? Right, correct, very good. Next. Assertion and reasoning question. Assertion, T.S. Eliot argued that a dissociation of sensibility set in among the English poets during the 17th century, a malady from which the language has never truly recovered. And reason, the metaphysical poets such as Donne and Herbert were primarily responsible for this shift because they were unable to fuse their intellectual thoughts with their sensory experiences. Easy question. Say, what would be the answer? Yeah, 3. A is correct, but R is not correct. Assertion is true. T.S. Eliot did coin the term dissociation of sensibility in his essay, The Metaphysical Poets, claiming that poets after the mid 17th century, like Milton and Dryden, began to separate thought from feeling. So, assertion is true, but the reason is false. Eliot had actually praised the metaphysical poets for having a unification of sensibility. He famously said that they could feel their thought as immediately as the odor of a rose. So, according to Eliot, the dissociation of sensibility happened after the metaphysical poets, not because of them. So, A is correct, but R is not correct. Okay? Yes, option 3 is absolutely the right one. A is correct, but R is not correct. Right. Next. Assertion, Mikhail Bakhtin argues that the novel is the only literary genre that is inherently dialogic and capable of reflecting heteroglossia. These are very well-known concepts for you all. Reason for Bakhtin, poetic genres like the epic or the lyric are essentially monologic because they attempt to strip words of their social ideological history to create a single unified authorial voice. What would be the answer for this question? These are very crucial concepts and theorists. And I really hope you guys already know them. Shreya is saying it is option 1. Let's see. Yes, it is indeed option 1. Both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. So both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. Yes. Mikhail Bakhtin's theory of genre, most famously articulated in his essay, Epic and the Novel, revolves around the distinction between dialogic and monologic. Right. So here the assertion is true that Bakhtin argues that novels are uniquely dialogic and they host heteroglossia. It is the coexistence of varied socio-ideological languages, dialects, and social worldviews. Because it is fundamentally what? It is fundamentally composed of diverse character voices, narrators, and discourses. The novel escapes a single unified meaning. And the reason is also true. Bakhtin contrasts the novel with poetic genres like the epic or lyric. For Bakhtin, these traditional genres like the epic or the lyric, they're essentially monologic. In poetry or epics, the words are stripped of their everyday socio-ideological history, so they can be molded into a single idealized authorial voice. Okay, so please remember, Mikhail Bakhtin is a major theorist of the novel, right? His very, very important work is the dialogic imagination. The dialogic imagination, we did that question yesterday about which chapters are there in this book, the dialogic imagination. I hope you all remember, right? Great. Next. Given below are two statements. Again, assertion reasoning. The culture industry results in the pseudo-individualization of the consumer, masking the standardized nature of mass-produced cultural goods. By offering slight variations in identical products, mass culture provides a facade of choice that prevents the audience from realizing they are being integrated into a system of total social control. Again, very basic ideas of cultural studies. What would be the answer? Adorno and Horkheimer, they had talked about this concept of the culture industry. Right, Adorno and Horkheimer. They were the theorists of the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory. They talked about this concept of culture industry and how it works within a social structure. Yes, very good. Here also both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. The culture industry results in a pseudo individualization of the consumer. Consumer means us, the audience. And the culture industry masks the standardized nature of mass produced cultural goods. Right. And it produces an illusion of choice. It produces an illusion of choice. So here both A and R are correct. And R is the correct explanation of A. Right. So if you're planning to sit for December NET exam, do join our Vallabh UGC NET English Premium online course. The classes for this course will start from 10th of July. All right. Next. Here I took this question from NET PYQ. Okay, it's a NET PYQ. This question came, I think, in 2024. This question from Longinus's On the Sublime. Which of the following is not identified by Longinus as one of the 5 genuine sources of sublime? And why? It's a PYQ. It's a NET PYQ. Which is not one of the sources of sublimity according to Longinus. 3. The use of intricate, highly technical jargon and obscure dialect to elevate the speaker's status. It is not one of the sources of sublimity according to Longinus. On the Sublime, that's a treatise by Longinus. Right? Got it? So option 3 is the correct answer. Yes. Next, in his seminal work, The Political Unconscious, Frederick Jameson proposes a threefold hermeneutic framework for the interpretation of a literary text. Which of the following is not one of the interpretive horizons defined by Jameson? Again, Frederick Jameson is a must for NET or for any exam. Which is not one of the interpretive horizons defined by Jameson? The horizon of political history, social horizon, transcendental archetypes. Let's see. It is 3. The horizon of transcendental archetypes is not there. So we all know that Frederick Jameson is a Marxist theorist. His framework is strictly historical and materialist. He argues that everything is political and always historicized. Therefore, he explicitly rejects transcendental archetypes, which is often associated with North of Fry or Jungian criticism, because they seek to remove the text from its specific historical and material conditions. So Frederick Jameson talked about the horizon of political history, the social horizon, and the historical horizon. Because remember, Frederick Jameson is a Marxist theorist. His framework is based or is predicated or is rooted in historical and materialist conditions. Right? Okay. So the political unconscious, a major work by Frederick Jameson. Next. So the 3 actual horizons, level 1, level 2, level 3. The individual text acts as a symbolic act, the social level, and the history. These are the 3 levels. as proposed by Frederick Jameson in The Political Unconscious. Next. Arrange the following foundational works of 20th century theory and criticism in the correct chronological order. Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, Eric Auerbach's Mimesis, Client Brooks' The Well-Wrought Urn, René Welleck and Austin Warren's Theory of Literature, and Wimsatt and Beardsley's essay, The Intentional Fallacy. Tell me. Anatomy of Criticism by Northrop Frye was published in Anatomy of Criticism by Northrop Frye was published in 1957. 1957. Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, 1957. 1957. Then Mimesis. Mimesis by Eric Auerbach. It was published in which year? Mimesis was published in 1946. 1946 in German. It was first published in 1946 in German. Okay? Right. Next, The Well-Wrought Urn by Client Brooks. The Well-Wrought Urn by Client Brooks. 1947. 1947. Then Theory of Literature by René Welleck and Austin Warren, published in 1942. 1942. And lastly, we have the essay, Intentional Fallacy by Wimsatt and Beardsley. 1946, but I think a bit later. A bit later. Let's look at the answer. BECDA. So Mimesis, Wimsatt and Beardsley is The Intentional Fallacy, The Well-Wrought Urn, Theory of Literature, and lastly, obviously, Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, 1957. 1957. All right. These are very major works which have come in many PSC exams. So I gave you this list of texts for chronology, right? Okay, so BECDA. I hope that's clear. See, I have also here given you the list. Eric Auerbach's Mimesis, 1946. Wimsatt and Beardsley's The Intentional Fallacy, 1946. But a bit later than Mimesis. Client Brooks, The Well-Wrought Urn, 1947. Theory of Literature by René Welleck, 1949. This year is showing different in different places. I might have to check this again. Google and all, they're showing the years different in different places. So that's a bit confusing. But Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, 1957. Right? Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, 1957. Right. So that's all from our side for tonight. I really hope you guys like the questions. I have tried to keep the questions in exact net style. I have mostly taken inspiration from net PYQs and various PSC exams which I could lay my hands on. So the questions I'm trying to bring to you are heavily based on the net PYQs, and PYQs are various PSC exams. So based on that, I have tried to, bring together these questions for you. I hope it's giving you a good revision in terms of the concepts and theorists and all. Right? So yeah. So I hope you like the session and the discussion. And do join our Vallath UGC Net English Premium online course. Here we will offer you both paper 1 and paper 2 classes. So thank you so much to you all for joining. I don't know why my video is not working today. I have kept the video on, but I don't know why it's not visible though. Anyways, I hope you like the session. So take care, good night, and I will see you all again tomorrow at 9:30. All right.